Peace, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Masterminds Monday. I am one of your hosts, Phylecia Tarael-ANU, and we are also here with our other host, Brother Damon Rawls.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings.
Greetings. So, again, tonight, before we get into our topic, I just wanted to cover a few announcements. So, first, of course, as you know, we have the upcoming webinar on meditation. And again, that's on January 9th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that is about 12 days away. So definitely RSVP and get your ticket in advance. And you can RSVP at sadualhouse.com/events. So again, please RSVP in advance. Let us know you're coming. And again, you have the best seat in the house because you can enjoy it from the comfort of your home. And you'll get a ton of information on meditation. So get your pen and your pad ready as well, and also participate in the Q&A session. So we offer a live Q&A session also throughout the webinar. So it's very interactive, but of course it does require your participation. So definitely come out for that. Again, it's January 9th, and you can RSVP at sadualhouse.com/events. Also, today is the 28th. So tonight is the last day for the winter solstice discount at the Alpha Omega store, which we're offering 15% off to again honor the winter solstice. So again, we have a ton of new products in the inventory. Simply just scroll by products and you'll see a ton of new products that we have, from djembe drums to pendulums, to journals, to cauldrons, books, DVDs. Again, it's your one-stop shop for your spirituality and self-development needs. So again, go there today because the sale will end tonight at 11:59 p.m. And again, you can go to alphaomegastore.com again to get your last day for the 15% off sale for winter solstice. So, Brother Damon, do you have any announcements before we go
on? Right now, over the next month, DRC will be having a business health check. So if you, and the health check is free for businesses, and we'll run it through January. But the health check is designed to analyze your business, all the segments of your business, your IT, your marketing, etc., your accounting, to see if you're running at your optimal efficiency. So it's like getting a checkup for your business. So if your business is in need of a checkup, by all means, send an email over to Damon at damonrawls.com, and we'll get you scheduled with somebody and hook that up for you.
Wonderful. Okay, so again, to just get into tonight's topic, again, you're listening to Masterminds Monday on Enlightenment and Transformation. And tonight, since it's the last Monday of the year, 2015, we wanted to kind of just highlight a few of our favorite shows that we covered in 2015. So, Brother Damon, did you want to start off with one of your favorite shows that we covered in 2015?
Yes, I can. One of my favorite shows was the show we did on colors. Man, that was colors and the color wheel and color schemes and the power of utilizing the visual energy was a great show for me. That's a big topic to me that's dear to my heart. There's so much to the science of just clothing. I mean, not clothing, but color and what it does, and even to the degree that people are speakers. Speakers in the front of the room. If you ever watch them, they wear blue suits. The blue suits denote power. Or they wear a black suit. That black suit denotes power. If they're wearing a brown suit, they're trying to get you to believe in them. And they're trying to create a warm friend environment. But those other two colors are regal and leadership colors. Just like you hear people talk about the power ties. They only go to certain meetings with power ties, or, so that science is real, and people really should tap into that. All the way down to the car you drive. So if you're operating a business and and you want people to feel cozy and warm and at home, maybe you should look at using some of the yellows and those, I call them Florida colors, those warm, inviting, kind of vibrant, alive colors. Love that show about colors. It, red is one of my favorite colors. It is a strength color for me. It gives me strength. And even utilizing, like I said, the colors do things to certain people, but you can use them yourself to make you feel a certain way. Like we all have our color scheme. I bet if we were all to go to our closet and look, we all have a unique color scheme. And there's a certain color scheme that makes you feel strong, warm, powerful, etc. So key in on that and see what it is for yourself. And then I would say try different things too with colors to see what they do. If it makes you feel sad, try a color. And if it makes you feel sad, now you know to stay away from that color. Or even, if you've got a storefront, utilizing different colors in your artwork and just seeing what they do to people, seeing if they make people feel warm and cozy or upbeat when they come into your place. If you guys notice, like a lot of places now are using real warm browns and big heavy leathers. Most retail stores now are trying to create a home environment. So they're trying to make it seem like it's a home space because most people are shopping online now. A lot of your major retailers are shutting down because they cannot handle online shopping. Online shopping is killing people. So if you notice when you go in the stores now, like I said, you see the warm colors and the warm furniture. They're trying to make it feel like homely so that you can enjoy being in the place. So colors, that was one of my favorite shows. And again, I advise people check out colors and what they do and take a look at the color wheel and just research colors and what they mean to the emotional state.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that was great. You highlighted a lot of great points about that show. What I liked about that show, just briefly, was the business segment that we covered, because that was one where we highlighted Black billionaires. So yeah, this show we did back in July, actually, on color therapy. And what I just really liked about that briefly was that many of the billionaires that we highlighted were from the continent. So they were from Nigeria or some other continent in Africa, and or some other country in Africa. And some were actually women too. So I thought that was really interesting, because it wasn't, I was going in unexpectedly when we did that show, but just learning about, where these billionaires are coming from and how they obtained their billions, I thought was very, very interesting, because you don't hear a lot about, Black billionaires. But these were particularly ethnic, African billionaires. So I thought that was pretty, pretty cool. So again, if you want to check out that show on color therapy, again, that's on blogtalkradio.com, Enlightenment Transformation, and just scroll to the July 14th show. It's called Color Therapy for Business and Black Billionaires on Masterminds Monday. Now, real briefly, the one show that I did like, unfortunately, Brother Damon, you weren't there for that show.
Then why'd you pick that one?
Because it was one of my favorite shows, because I enjoyed the theme music that went along with it. I did a whole, experience, since I had the opportunity.
Okay.
So that one was on personal development, and that was inspired by the Blue Heron. So, we were doing the theme with the medicine cards that I read, but this wasn't a part of the theme. It was just, inspired by divination, like what to talk about. And the Blue Heron came up. So, I hosted that show on self-reflection, but we used the theme song by Mint Condition called I Wonder Why My Life Has Not Changed. 20 years later, you're doing the same thing. Have you heard that song before? Oh, I love that song.
Maybe I have to look it up.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's great. It's an old school song, but it's that show I did on August 11th of 2015, and that was on Again, that's on Blog Talk Radio, so the archives are there. Because as you guys know, if you've been listening, we transitioned off of blogtalkradio.com with the exception of Chief Speaks. So all of our new shows are now on Enlightenment and Transformation TV via YouTube channel. But the old ones, you may have to still go to blogtalkradio.com to listen to those archives. So these are two of the ones that you will have to go to the archives on Blog Talk to listen to. And again, this show is called Personal Development. And again, I thought it was key because we tend to, we go to lectures and we get spiritual work and we read all these books with these amazing authors and all this great information. But it doesn't really seem to have an impact on people that the way you would imagine, especially people that have an amazing library of books, and all this stuff, or they've gotten all this type of spiritual work done. But they're not really seeing the real change in their lives. So that's what that song spoke to on a different level. It wasn't like about spirituality per se, but that's what the theme of that show was, because the medicine of the Blue Heron is asking for you to kind of look at yourself with a cold eye and things that you want to change about yourself. Are you actually reaching those goals, or are you not? What's blocking you from reaching those goals? Is it fear? Are you scared to take a stand for what you believe in or for yourself? Whatever it is, that Blue Heron kind of teaches you to really delve deeply into that, and then without being extra harsh on yourself. So don't crush your spirit, because sometimes, like you said in the last show we were talking about, we can be very hard on ourselves. And the Blue Heron is teaching you to, look at yourself in balance. Like, don't think overnight you're going to be a Reiki master. Everybody's a Reiki master. You may not be a master overnight. It may take time for you to reach your goals, whether they're spiritual or some practical goals or some business goals. But the key is to look at yourself to see if you are realizing any of those goals and if you're making the changes that you want. Because again, like the song was saying, so much time can go by and not much will really have changed in your life that you want to see change, besides your age. So that's what I really liked about that show, and the song is amazing. So again, if you want to check it out, it's called Personal Development, and that's on the blogtalkradio.com/enlightenment transformation.
Can I jump in on that one for a second?
Sure.
So okay, in my own personal philosophy, I've got something, and I'll throw it out to you, and I think it'll be a good. I just want to hear another point of view on it. So, in this whole law of attraction, positive thinking, all of this, so you take in all of this information, right? And so you try to get to a point where you are. Let's say let's just talk about prosperity, money stuff, right? So if you are reading, it is my contention that if you are reading a bunch of, I don't have money, this is how you get money, this is how you get prosperity, blah blah blah, you're in lack, this is why you got in lack, this is how you get out of lack. If you are reading tons of those books, aren't you in fact telling the universe that you are in lack?
I'm sorry, you're asking me that question?
Yeah, it's a question.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a question. Like don't you think so? I mean, I don't know. I think so.
I think if you're reading a ton of those books, like The Secret, and like, I think I literally threw that book in the trash after I read that, and that was pre me studying like indigenous spirituality. It was just so over commercialized, and I felt it was so gimmicky the way it was presented that I was just like, I'm not reading any more of this crap. So I think that it's a bit of a balance. Yeah, if you're so focused, I think it's your perception of it. If you're focused on it in a way where you have a strong will and you're going to materialize these things, like, okay, I'm going to read all these financial books because I want to, learn how to invest my money properly. So when I get this next check that's coming in or whatever, I will know what to do with it. I think that's something different versus the mindset of, like you're saying, lack or desperation, where you're reading all these love novels or how can I track this and track that to my life. I think that's when you do get kind of stuck in that cycle.
See, you just said it though. You just said a how-to book. Reading a how-to book is not saying that I'm lacking. It's just giving you some skill sets. I think, yeah. So, okay. Because I literally threw away all of those books that I had years ago, because it dawned on me, wait a minute. If I read this, the book is telling me, well, Damon, you're in lack. And in order to get out of lack, you need to get in spiritual alignment, and you need to do, wait a minute. But I just told myself I'm in lack. It's anyway.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think it's like, say if you got a consultation, it's like, oh, you're not in alignment and you have this problem. I think if you then say before you came to that information, whether it's a book or a person telling you this, and you didn't feel that way, but then you acquiesce to what they're saying and say, oh, I agree. Yeah, I am in lack. I don't have these things. And I think, yeah, you kind of are shifting the energies of the gears in the universe, however that works, to that, vibration. Now you think, okay, I am in lack, so now I need this thing. In order to get that thing, I have to do what this book is telling me to do, 1, 2, 3, or whatever this person is telling me to do, 1, 2, 3. Where if you had the mindset that I'm not in lack, I might not have what you're saying I should have or whatever, but I personally don't feel in lack, then I think that's more of a higher vibration, to carry. So I think that kind of takes you out of that circle of attracting lack by reading books on, lacking things in your life, instead of like I'm saying, I'm all about personal development and all that stuff. So I think if it's more practical stuff on how to get this or that, and you do those things, and that's more action oriented. And the mindset, I think, is a bit different as opposed to buying a whole bunch of books thinking that they're going to change your life. Because I even feel personally like it's a moment where you do go through that time where you're like the hermit and you're away stuck in your mind. But that's all is theory and thought and thinking. But so much of that you can do, to me personally, before you have to now start doing something about it. And I get tired of reading stuff I want to now do something about it. So that's how I look at it personally. But I do kind of agree. Yeah, you'll get stuck in that. Like how Chief will explain when he teaches that when you affirm, you don't say I want. You already say I have. I have $1 million. I have a family. I have a mate. Whatever it is that you really desire, claim it already, because that'll change and shift your whole consciousness. It changes your vibration, as opposed to always saying I want, I want, I want, I want. Like he's taught us, it will kind of leave you in a constant cycle of wanting, i.e. reading all those books on wanting something. So I understand what you're saying. I think it's that right there. You just shifting the language helps you to shift the mindset and then shift your reality.
Okay, cool. Sometimes you got to throw your theories by other people.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Totally. And I know we're going a little bit over time, but again, last but not least, the top show of the year we both agreed on was, of course, Claude Anderson. That show was great. I mean, it was one of the most viewed shows that we had. At this point now, it has about 622 views to date. Several comments, and it was really fun to do. I think we lost track of time doing that show. And on that show, we kind of explored his legacy, the legacy of Claude Anderson. We played a clip from one of his semi-recent lectures. But we mainly explored his plan for, Black America when he wrote the book Powernomics. And in that book, we were highlighting that he had a 5-year plan to empower the Black community and the Black nation, and that was in 2001. And again, this is like we were saying, he's got accolades for days. So he's a man who walks his talk. He doesn't just, speak theory. He actually has built businesses and developed things and, aspired and reached certain things that most people haven't in business, in economics. And he creates his book. He has a master plan that should have materialized by year 2006. Is 2016 in a couple days. So technically 15 years later, i.e. what Mint Condition was saying, we are still doing the same thing. Some of us anyway, You know, 20 years later, not much has changed. And, you know, we had a long dialogue about it. We were discussing race, you know, economics, you know, how is it proportionate? But at the end, we posed that question, remember, to the audience, where we were asking, you know, why, when we have such great leaders, why is there such little progress, you know, in this instance, economically? And then I posed the question, is it because the leader's message is not effective enough? Are we just not listening properly? Is racism really that strong of a hold where it's just no chance for us to succeed economically? Or I asked, was it the breakdown of the family, the core issue? You know, so that was kind of the highlight of the show. We had a lot of comments that came up from that show as well. I have a comment that came up. We didn't really talk about too much, but if you want to share something before I go into this comment.
No. Let's talk about the comment. I want to hear this.
Sure. And this was from Brother Zach Latimer. He's one of the students of ANU Spiritual Training. And he left a comment that we've been meaning to touch on. So we're going to do it tonight. So he asked, he says, I truly think that programming and family are two big parts of the conversation. I just want to add and maybe get your thoughts on time. Have we become a slave to time so much that we look at how long it would take us to achieve liberation instead of taking the steps put in place? So folks can't get a good night's sleep because of time. They won't read, they won't eat healthy or have a family because of lack of time. So does it have that strong of a hold that one generation won't give up some things in order to help their kids because time won't move fast enough in order for them to see the fruits of the tree? Or am I going in the wrong direction? So that was the question that was presented based on our show. What are your thoughts?
Are we a slave to time?
Is that a part of us not achieving economically? Or he's asking, is he off on the wrong track? Is time like not even a factor of what the issue is?
It's my opinion that time is not a factor. I don't think time is a factor. I think conditioning is the factor. It's almost, if you've ever seen a sister, like if you ever seen somebody on a continent carrying water, and they've got the thing across the back, and you've got 2 buckets of water. So if those things are equal, if there's buckets that are equal, then it's easy to carry. So what we have to remember is that, so let's take that same person carrying a bucket, and you've got negative in one bucket and positive in another bucket. And our buckets are filled with negative information. Negative, visualization, history, etc. Negative. All you can do is run and jump, etc. You not strong business people. Oh, well, you didn't have, history stops at slavery, etc. I can name a million things that go to conditioning and in that negative bucket. But how much of it is in that positive bucket? Not very much of it. Not very much information is in the positive bucket. So we've been conditioned, people of color have been conditioned to feel like life doesn't matter because I'm not going to do anything significant anyway. And so we've got to get to a point where we realize and recognize, not just intellectually recognize greatness, but internalize it and understand. Here's a simple fact. There were what you call kingdoms, not just cities. There were kingdoms on the continent of Africa. Now, in order to build a city, you must have a number of different things. One thing you must have is a surplus of goods. You must have a surplus of food. You must have a surplus of money. You must have a surplus of people, time, etc. in order to build buildings, to create libraries, to create a system, a structure that would sustain the city. So that's law, etc. So a magnificent abundance of resources. Now, take that to 1,000. You've got to have not just the ability to have a city, the resources to have a city, but that ability to have a kingdom, which spans miles of land. And there were kingdoms that were around for thousands of years, thousands on the continent. When people can really, really internalize that type of greatness and know that that's commonplace, significant intellectual capacity, commonplace. Libraries, commonplace on the continent, etc. When people can internalize that and know what you come from and understand that greatness, and it's only been stripped out a few years. That's the thing. That's the crazy thing. It's only been a few decades, several hundred years that information has been taken away. But to get to the internalization of that greatness, then at that point, then you can understand who we really are and what we are. So I think it's conditioning, period, to me.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent point. Excellent point. Likewise, I agree totally. I don't think time is so much a factor. Yeah, I mean, everyone's always saying we're running out of time because we're constantly trying to do so much nowadays than we tried to do back in the day. Everyone's multitasking and doing 1,000 things at one time. So technically, you think you would be getting more done, with that sense, with technology and the internet and all that stuff that we have now than we did in the past. But like you're saying, it seems like our ancestors or, some of our past traditions, they had accumulated a lot of things and they weren't worrying about time. I was watching a documentary the other day, I believe, I forgot if it was the Maasai tribe or another tribe, where they don't even look at time. They don't count days. They don't count. They're nomadic, and they kind of like move around cyclically, between different areas. But they don't look at the watch. Oh, we gotta go. It's time to go. It's all about the seasons and nature, and they just move as a group, on their own movement, and they still get a lot of things done. They eat from the earth. That's it. They're not high consumers. They don't need a lot of things. They're eating squirrel, and they're starting their own fires, and they're cooking it right there on the spot and giving it to the family. They have a lot of rules and cult where, okay, they were being filmed, but they're like, okay, we don't really like outsiders. So what is it that you want to talk about? So they're very close knit, structured, and they carry their traditions from their ancestors that have been before them to keep it all strong and to keep boundaries around their culture, which is still intact. So again, they had all that, and that's abundance in a sense, and they don't even look at time like the way we do. So yeah, I don't think that time is a factor in that. I think what you're saying certainly is the conditioning. I think it's a factor of all the things that we discuss: racism, lack of families. Because again, sure, when we discuss the billionaires, African billionaires, they shared stories about how, oh, well, I wanted to start a business, and my uncle, who was already a billionaire, he lent me my first $1 million or whatever, something crazy that doesn't happen in every day, to get my business started. I took the legacy down a different lane. He had a different type of a company. So it was a few of them where it was like, oh, my father, okay, that's a billionaire story, but then it was the Golden Crust. Their family was selling beef patties on the street. Now it's a $1 billion industry, but it still started with, some type of family foundation that we kind of lack now, so that's one part of building wealth, is having that. We did The Millionaire Next Door. Come on, all of them were married and had families that were of like mind and very goal oriented. And they have the same values and stuff like that that kind of help them keep their wealth, and they train their children to be the same way. So I think that was a major part of it. Certainly, we talked about white skin privilege, where of course that was a major factor in it. Disproportionate availability of resources. We can go on and on and on. And attack, like you said, I think that key thing is still that internalization of it, because it is possible for other cultures to have some sort of a community, because we discussed that on that show too. We got the Chinatown, you got this town and that town. There's no black town. There's no African town. There's no, like, he wanted to have a black economic America, which does not exist even 10, 15 years later. And he had a plan. We didn't adhere to it. And I do believe, like what you're saying, it's still like a psychological thing where you don't think that you can be these things, or you can't realize these things. So you don't even aspire to it. If somebody's constantly beating you in the head that you're not good enough and you're not going to be anything, then you start to internalize it and believe it. You don't have any power. We have all the power, although, it may or may not true. But you're going to internalize that and think, why even try? I can't do anything with my life, And that's the mindset of like where I'm from. People have that mindset. What am I really going to do besides sell drugs or do something to make a decent living? What am I really going to do? They're not even thinking outside of that. Like, oh, go work at McDonald's for $5 an hour. Like, I don't think so. I can make $10,000 in 2 weeks doing what I'm doing here. So, I think it's a lot of that conditioning where you just been like browbeaten so badly that you don't think, like you said, you can realize some of these things, and that just leads to a whole thing breakdown of the family, and then racism fuels it more, and we're kind of not realizing the things that we want to realize. So we were discussing how those were some of the issues that we discussed on the last show. So likewise, I think that was a great comment, a great perspective, but I agree, I don't think time is so much of that particular cause of us not kind of excelling to the next thing. Because like we were saying, we do have a buying power. We certainly do, but we don't always put it in the right places, or we don't unite in certain ways to kind of, have a collective thing where we're like, okay, this is us. This is our nation. So it's got to start now with you on a basic individual level, to you start in your family level, start in your own little nations, and see how you can collectively come together if you can, or if you can't, or whatever. But you have to start with you at this point. And then, see if you can kind of like pass that down, to your family, or build with somebody else that's on the same level or same mindset. But I think that's where it has to start at this point, because we're not seeing any of these major leaders come out like that anymore. Spiritually, we have people like Chief, that are still teaching us how to empower ourselves, but it's still so much to get people to actually mobilize, to actually see some real progress.
True.
So those are my thoughts on it as well. So we're out of eye on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. 400%.
Any last gems before we close out? Anything that really stuck out, or anything you want to share, that stuck out for the year 2015 that you want to share before we close out?
Now, I would just say, I would just leave it at this and just say, hey, make 2016 a great year. But in order to make it a great year, become a different person. Take in new information, do different things, live a life a little bit differently than you've been living. And then, you'll see the changes that you want to see. So
True. Likewise. The same thing I wanted to kind of share, just will that the advice and the guidance that we've been sharing has been helpful in some way, shape, or form. So just on this specific topic, that people can understand some basic principles when it comes to, how they approach business and how they can involve spirituality in it, so they can approach it holistically. And of course, to really sign up for the classes, because that helps you, again, like you were saying so eloquently about how you can kind of uncondition yourself into thinking from a position of lack, or we don't have, when you study the classes and teachings through the shows, you'll really start to, gain a sense of empowerment. And that's when you can really start making some significant changes in your life. So that is excellent. The classes kind of help you shift your consciousness. And he's got a gazillion shows between the archives on blogtalkradio.com to now on what is this? I'm sorry, Enlightenment Transformation TV. And I forgot to add the last show that we discussed with Claude Anderson. That one was on Enlightenment Transformation TV. So that's on our YouTube channel on Enlightenment Transformation. If you want to check that one out, again, it's a great show. So, basically, that's kind of what I wanted to share, get that information. So like you said, you can be a different person for 2016, the person that you want to be, and constantly continue to grow and evolve throughout the year. So those are my last gems for tonight's show.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. And again, don't forget to check out the webinar on January 9th on meditation. Again, you can RSVP at sedulahhouse.com/events. And make sure, again, tonight is the last night for the Winter Solstice Savings sale, which is 15% off your entire purchase. We have a ton of new products, gift cards, donations. I mean, you name it, is there. So go to alphaomegastore.com and check us out there. Any last announcements before we head out?
That's it from this side.
All right, awesome. So everyone, thank you again for listening, and have a wonderful evening. Peace.
Peace.